welcome to this week's episode of the Stick Bow Chronicles, brought to you by Blackwidow Bows. Those are the bows that have been building since 1957 with those nasty little spiders on them. You got to pick up the phone and call Roger and Toby this week and say, hey, what are you doing on the phone? Get to work. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Before I turn it over, it's an empty quiver episode, so that means Aaron Snyder and I are going to be BSing. I want to talk a little bit about where this podcast, how it started, and where it's going, because I do have a big announcement. When I started this thing, I figured it'd just be a couple hundred people, and I'm going to just interview Joe, average Joe bow hunter, and it was going to be fun. But it's turned into so much more. We had the opportunity to have some great guests on, and through that, we've gotten some interaction with the younger crowd, which I did not expect. So it's awesome. I mean, I never would have thought that I would be one day I'd be interviewing M.R. James, one of my childhood heroes, and having just cool people on, and we have some educational stuff. We've had Don Thomas on talking about shoulder injuries. Rod Jenkins most recently, Tom Klom. So I try to keep it a good, healthy mix. But this influx of the younger crowd, it did take me by surprise. And of course, it's awesome. But I don't think it's entirely accidental. When I look at the guests that I've had, and kind of an open door, don't talk down to compounds. Heck, my best friend has been on this podcast how many times, and we're podcasting in camp, and he shoots a compound. I mean, that's just what he's doing, right? So that, I believe, has kind of been has cultivated and really allowed people to relate. So with the younger crowd, there's been a couple that's really stuck out to me, and they've impressed me to the level of, I've suggested to some of the manufacturers that I talk to, some of the people in the business, not that I'm influential, but I say, hey, look at these folks, that's the future. I mean, if I was selling a product, I would want this person, one of them being Bailey Smith. I mean, she does a great job representing not just women, but she represents bow hunting. Fantastic. And, she's a high level, compound shooter, and now she's shooting stick bows. So I think it's super important to recognize those folks and do all we can to help them take this sport to the next level. So as I'm, recommending Bailey and this other guy here, to TBM, I was mentioned by John Barklow, hey, you might want to look at these folks. It hits me in the head one day, like, maybe you ought to talk to one of these folks about being a co-host. So with all that lip flapping, I'm pretty stoked to announce Blake Hunter here is going to be the new co-host on the Stick Bow Chronicles. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, Rob?
Well, you tell me, man. Welcome aboard, and tell the folks a little bit about yourself. How'd you get started?
Well, I grew up bow hunting from a really young age. I started bow hunting when I was probably 11 years old, 10 or 11, and killed my first deer with a bow that year. And my dad was part owners in an archery shop growing up, so I grew up around bow hunters, mainly compound guys. Very little exposure to stick bows. Just been a really passionate whitetail hunter for most of my life, really. And I grew up in Gainesville, Texas, which is about an hour north of Dallas, Fort Worth. And that's where I'm still at. And the last few years I've really kind of started to branch out and tried to, not only pick up the stick bow, but start trying to make the venture out west some and really, I guess expand my horizons as far as a hunter. And, things like the Stick Bow Chronicles and Aaron Snyder and, the list goes on. really inspired me to want to take that next step. And, it's been a roller coaster from day one at times. There's been a shit show or two along the way, but that's just part of the journey. And, I've kind of learned to embrace it over time. And man, I'm looking forward to, what the next few years and beyond has in store.
Absolutely, man. I got a question though. When you were a kid, right? Say you're 14, 15 years old. Are you reading magazines? Or you're watching DVDs? I mean, when I was a kid, I was all about, not Dwight Schrute, but M.R. James and a couple of the other guys. Who were you looking towards for inspiration?
I mean, mainly, to be honest, a lot of kids got, video games and things like that when they were kids. And, I always wanted new hunting clothes or, a new bow or BB gun or whatever. And I always got stocking stuffers, and it was generally the same thing every year. It was scent-free soap, scent-free deodorant or whatever, and Monster Bucks, Realtree Monster Bucks DVDs or VHS tapes even whenever I was real young. So, watching those guys growing up it just fueled the fire, man. And, Bill Jordan and Michael Waddell and all those guys, they killed a lot of big bucks on film. And, honestly, that's what helped keep me going and keep the fire burning, I guess. And, my dad was obviously instrumental in keeping me in the woods whenever I was growing up. If it wasn't one thing, it was another. We were either plowing and planting food plots or building fence or filling feeders or, whatever. I mean, it was just constantly, we were doing something. And he always kept me involved. And, I can't thank him enough for really leading me down this path.
Heck yeah. And I think the difference in perspectives, me being, I wouldn't say old, but I'm a little I've been around a little bit, and
you're a little crusty.
It's been some mold. Just in my experience, and lack thereof. I mean, I'm and what you bring to the table, being from Texas and just different perspective. And, like I said earlier, a new guy coming from shooting a compound. I mean, you've done really well. You've come a long ways in a few years shooting a stick bow. I just think it is going to speak to that newer audience, the newer bow hunters, and I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really good. We've like you said, we're kind of on two completely separate ends of the spectrum, but
yeah,
our moral compass is pointed in the same direction. And, a lot of the ideas that we've bounced off each other so far, I think we've pretty well agreed on just about everything. And we both kind of have a similar vision of where this thing could go. And, you've brought it a long ways from where you started it. And, Stick Bow Chronicles is one of the key pieces for me, kind of starting this journey, and one of the key resources and motivational, motivational tools, if you want to call it that. And, to expand on that and, try and keep taking it forward is going to be a lot of fun. So
yeah. And it, I've just been really fortunate. We've had some great guests on here, and just keeping an open door policy. We're not militant, anti-compound. I never have been, right? Some of my best hunting partners shoot compounds, but I got a couple times a month I get messages from people. Hey, I don't even shoot a stick bow and love listening to your podcast. So just being there, just being out there, I certainly think that we have an impact on people that may want to pick up a stick bow. And so we'll continue a lot of what we've done in the past. It's not a lot's going to change. We're just going to have probably a broader perspective. We're going to still work with great organizations like Compton Traditional Bow Hunters to grow the sport. And I think it's going to be great, man.
Yeah, I do too. And first order of business is to start taking up donations and get you a new pair of shorts.
Dude. Man, it's been a rough week.
Trial by fire, man.
Yeah, it's been a rough week, man. The guy wears his gym shorts out there. What'd you call him?
Smuggling grapes.
Man.
And then I think you said grapefruits.
Yeah, well, yeah. Nobody said, hey, good shooting or nice shot or great tip. It's like, what the hell's up with those legs and the shorts?
Yeah, well, you might as well have painted them fluorescent yellow.
You guys are all shallow. You guys are all shallow.
Yeah, I think one guy commented and was recommending a good solid spray tan for you. So,
well, maybe I got the face and a body for podcasts, I guess.
There you go. You got a face for radio, buddy. No, but on a serious note, I think keeping that door open and trying not to alienate any certain crowd. I know there's certainly some times that I've seen in guys just, a compound guy comes into, whatever Facebook group and is asking for opinions or advice or whatever. And immediately it's just like a dog pile.
Yeah.
It seems like sometimes. And I think that if you want to keep and retain people and get them interested in it, you've got to have that open door policy. So.
Yeah, hell, we let you in.
Yeah, that you did. You don't know how bad you screwed up yet.
No, you don't know how bad you screwed up. You've had a couple of weeks to see behind the scenes, man. If I was you, I'd run.
Oh yeah, we got to work on your talk to text. That's one thing that we're gonna have to work on.
Oh, well,
but
it's a lot of things.
Yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to it, and I think this is gonna be a lot of fun, man.
Why don't you tease the project you're going to jump right into?
Okay, yeah. So first off, kind of first thing on the ballot, so to speak, is I'm fascinated with mule deer right now. That's kind of my thing that's keeping me ticking, and so I'm going to do more or less a kind of an I hunt close moments type of format, but it's going to be with mule deer killers.
Yeah, you got some pretty big names. You got some big names.
Yeah. If a lot of people are going to recognize these names, and they're not traditional specific, but like we said earlier, I think you're weeding out a lot of good information if you kind of back yourself into that corner.
Heck
and
yeah. One of my heroes.
It's just going to be.
One of my heroes is Dwight Schrute.
Yeah.
Let me find somebody that has an issue with what Dwight Schrute did. It'd be tough to do.
Yeah, no kidding. No, but I think it's going to be great. It's not going to be a gear-related podcast or anything like that. It's going to be strictly tips and tactics, and going to try and get some different tips and different angles from each guest. So, I think it's going to be a really good one.
Yeah, and then you and I have got one coming up. Is it Monday?
I believe so.
Yeah, we're going to record an elk calling elk hunting podcast with a super cool guy. I think we'll hold on to the name there, but looking forward to that. And I do have several episodes that I probably got 4 episodes that I had on the books that I did myself. So you'll hear Blake in and out doing intros, and he's working on some stuff, but probably by mid-September, we'll be in full swing and
knocking them out, man. And I think, sometimes you'll do some by yourself. Sometimes I'll do some by myself, and then we'll do some together. And I think it's going to be great.
Sounds good, man. You got anything else?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, let me hit the sponsors and get everybody out of here. I want to say a big thanks to the sponsors for helping put this all together. Selway Archery, The Footed Shaft, Kifaru International, and of course Blackwidow Bows. You guys and gals all keep shooting, It's right around the corner. So good luck. Tag us on Instagram, post on the Facebook feed. We want to see what you got going on. Sound good?
Yep. I'm
All
good,
right.
man.
Roger out. What's up, Aaron?
Not much, man. Just getting ready for season. Actually, it always creeps up on me, so I was going into panic mode tonight. Like, okay, what all shit did I forget? So,
were you rendering some bacon today?
Rendering some bacon. You lost me. What happened?
Doing a little cardio.
No, man, I didn't do a whole lot of cardio. We did hike up, and that is funny. I'm gonna have to remember that when rendering bacon. We ran up to try to find a bull we were looking for, but I got off the mountain, and which is why we're doing this podcast. I was talking to you about all the things I always forget, wait till the last minute, and it's amazing how you got all this time, and then all of a sudden season's here, and you're like running to Sports Warehouse or Cabela's buying crap you could have got 4 months ago and just didn't.
You buying a new pack at Cabela's?
Exactly. Packing boots, man. Packing boots.
Oh, that's good
Maybe
stuff.
grab a bivvy.
Oh, that's good stuff. It is. I got a whole man cave out there. I don't keep it very organized, but you'd think that, 3 days before a trip, you could just boom, boom, boom and pull everything together. I really, really lean on lists. I have lists and lists. I can make it in your downtime at night and stuff. And when it's crunch time, I grab a list and try not to forget stuff.
Yeah, it's funny. The list thing is like I use an ELK power bugle. Inevitably, I forget to get those stupid little white reeds for it. It's just crap like that. And then food is pretty easy just because you can run grocery store and grab that. But I some of the smaller things which we can talk about in this podcast that I've gotten really good at, and I'm always ready. And there's other things like last minute that I'm like, good Lord, I know better than this. Come on, Snyder.
Well, as you said, reeds, I'm writing that down right now. Like, oh yeah, I need to get a couple. You always have to have extra.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What bugle you say you're using?
It's an ELK. Well, I use two different ones. I used to use the ELK Power Bugle, the full system, but I can get more noise out of that Phelps call. But I have a super high, without making fun of me, my palate is like quadruple the height of everyone else's. So it's hard for me to bugle. I can cow call like crazy, no problem. I can do pretty much anything as far as that goes. But for me to do a real dominant bugle, I can't with the diaphragm. So I put an ELK power bugle mouthpiece on a Phelps, that human body Phelps call. And that's what I use. So the mouthpiece from the ELK.
Huh. I heard you talk to the Phelps guys about that bugle. Is that thing really as good as you say it is?
The biggest thing is it's loud, right? It is just if you're wanting to sound like the biggest, nastiest bull on the mountain, that is it. I mean, that's what's going to do it. And so I have two. I have a pack bugle they make, a smaller one.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I use mostly on backpack hunts and crap like that. But when I get an area like this took us a point to draw it. There's a couple big bulls we're hoping to go after. We're going after. We'll hopefully get, and it's handy having that option to bugle that dominant and that. I really just that much of a challenge to another bull that size. The thing is you're going to scare the shit out of every other raghorn. So you're not going to be calling any. You're not going to be just shooting whatever else because they're going to be running the other direction when you let one rip on that thing.
Yeah, I've always used, and again, old school. I just always used a tube, right? A chunk of vacuum hose, and because
that's what the ELK power bugle is.
Well, yeah, and part of the reason I do that is because I, more often than not, I'm trying to sound like a maybe not a spike, but a younger, immature bull. But, and then I lose it.
Well, and I think, I mean, there's a lot to be said for, you can, I've killed a lot of elk with that ELK power bugle. I've used that thing for probably, and it's just a vacuum hose with their mouthpiece. Every now and then I know I can see a bull and I'm just not sounding dominant enough where it's worth his time. But 9 times out of 10, every other elk is coming in. I haven't had issues, but this bull we're going after is, I'll pack 4 bugles if I think it's going to help. It's big enough to where, I don't want to go in there. I can bugle softly on a big bugle. I can't bugle as dominant as I can on that ELK or like a vacuum hose.
Yeah.
And, it could also just be, I'm making myself feel mentally better.
Dude,
may not do a damn difference, but
yeah, no, there's a lot to that, man. We've talked about that before. I liken it to throwing, I know guys that catch tons of bass on buzzbait or spinnerbaits, and I don't catch crap on spinnerbaits, but I don't have any confidence. It's really, I think a lot of it is confidence. And you're right. I mean, I've had times where I've had the sound super aggressive, and it is difficult. I mean, I'm blowing my freaking lungs out, and trying to sound aggressive on a vacuum hose, but and plus I lose them. So 38 cents a foot, I lose them a lot.
Dude, I tell you what, I think I've donated at least 4 ELK powder bugles to the state of Colorado, much like out-of-state hunters that can't hack it on a backpack hunt. I'm out there. It's done something, but it didn't come back home when I wanted it to.
Oh, that's good stuff. Well, just out of curiosity, I mean, what diaphragms or what do you use there, or just you're just using that mouthpiece off the ELK though, eh?
Yeah. Well, and I will. There are certain types of calls. Without getting into a giant debate with Chris Rove, what they're called. I'll do a lazy bedded bugle with what I call, those ones where they're laying down in midday and they're just, hey, cows, they're just, I can do that with the diaphragm, like very technical calls. I use a diaphragm, but when I'm just ripping on one, I use that ELK mouthpiece. But I use, I use all Phelps stuff and have for the last few years. Just because Phelps is such a good guy, and the estrus calls, the wood ones are badass. All calls are great. I don't get too wound up in that. I'm more about Phelps is like us, right? Just work construction, works for, you know what I mean? He doesn't work construction, but he's a normal dude that has done well in the industry and super helpful to people.
Yeah.
So I'll use his stuff until the day I die, just because he's so cool. That, and he's actually coming out to call for us. I think we're going to hunt for about 5 days, and then he's coming out to call for my buddy Cody and I. So we're going to film it, or he's going to film it. I told him, I was like, don't expect me to listen to the cameraman when he says, hey, do this. And I'm like, hey, you can go ahead and do whatever you need to, but I'm doing my thing. Making jokes.
Keep up and don't move.
Bugged a lot. Oh yeah, exactly. We get bugged a lot to do more filming, Frank and I, and it's just, man, I didn't, I'm not, you're not going to learn much from that. And, that camera saves a lot of elk's lives. Yeah. I don't have the skill set with the stick bow to be saving elk lives, right? I know elk lives matter, but
easy.
It's like, oh man, the cameraman couldn't get the right angle. You better not shoot. Yeah, I'm sending it. He can just get the idea, right?
No, I can't imagine somebody saying, "Hey, yeah, no, I don't have the right angle." That's your loss, bro. You'll get the right angle. Exactly. This thing's dead. Oh, that's good stuff.
Oh, so, that's funny. Good. Landers texted me. He's like, "Are you out earning your fall?" He's such a smart ass. Jake Down stole that from me from the Rogan podcast, and now I got everybody hashtagging earn your fall, tagging me. I'm like, what? And then I figured out it was Jake. Jake started it. Because on the Rogan podcast, they just said something like, I kind of look at it, you got to earn your day. So try to get out there and, hike, walk, push-ups, whatever. And Jake's turned it into a full-on, 2020 presidential campaign. I got people hashtagging her in their fall left and right now.
Well, he did invent the Snyder lean, though. Right?
No, somebody was giving me crap about that the other day, the Snyder lean.
So, getting back to getting ready, is your first hunt then going to be elk, or is it going to be mule deer?
Antelope I had to rearrange a lot of my schedule because of COVID this year. So I actually did just a funny photo. I took a picture of my elk hunting clothing system, and then I took a picture of my underwear, which is what my clothing system will be for antelope in the ground blind. Well,
don't tag me in the underwear photo.
Yeah, no, I'm earning my fall a strange way.
I hope they're at least briefs. I hope it's not like nut huggers, like
a Speedo. Yeah. Like coming out looking like one of those 50-year-old fat dudes from California by the pool with a lot of money trying to score a trophy wife. Or maybe gold chain with a really hairy chest.
I love that commercial when that dude's strutting down the beach. You that the one you're talking about? It's like a commercial for a whiskey. He's strutting down the beach.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh yeah, that's just awesome. If you can live that carefree, I mean, there's something to that. Like, I don't give a crap what anybody thinks.
Yeah, no kid. You ever watch The Ladies Man? Hey, baby, would you like a fish sandwich? We watched that the other night. I'm totally getting off subject here. So anyway, antelope is my first hunt.
In Colorado, you're going to be in a blind, no spot and stock, over water hole, something like that.
We're going to do about as much as I can take in the ground blind, and then I'll get out. So I can sit in the blind for a while, but I'm good for probably 2 or 3 days in that blind, and then I'll spot and stock. So
yeah, antelope are cool. Hopefully, I'll get you back after that sometime. So you're going through your gear right now. You're doing cardio. You got your gear laid out. How's that going?
Man, it's good. One of the, as far as like what we're going to talk about here, when I lay out my gear, obviously like you, I've got a general list of just highlights of stuff that, to remember. It's nothing too crazy. But, some of the things that I forget that can really cost you is, I'll just go through kind of a list here. We can bounce back and forth and say one is a pre-stretched backup string. I know a lot of guys that go into season with one string, and that is bad juju. And, if you need to change out your string and it's a month before season, you're like, it might make it. I'd put a new one on, and try to get a backup, string stretched out, ready to go in your pack. I change out all my batteries, rangefinder, Sterapin, GPS watch, whatever. I change every battery out I've got. And then I have backup batteries ready to go, things like that. Have you had any crises with headlamps or anything like that where you didn't change out your batteries before?
I always carry, I try to keep everything, a headlamp and flashlight. I just carry one headlamp, one flashlight, and they both take AA's or AAA's. So I try to keep my batteries the same, but I haven't had a crisis, although we were tracking an elk over in the North Fork. Gosh, been several years ago. And this is crazy. I kid you not. 2:00 in the morning. We should have just left it, but sometimes you just can't, right? I think it was threatening to rain. And so we're on our hands and knees, and it's dark. It's black. And both of our headlamps went out at the same time. That was like UFO stuff. But other than that, no.
Well, I think the worst thing that's happened to me isn't a headlamp. It's a rangefinder. And I know a lot of trad guys don't use a rangefinder. But both with the compound, I haven't had it happen with the stick bow, but that rangefinder battery, goes out. If you do use one, it's not the end of the world, but it certainly can be dampener on a happy day if you end up needing it. So changing out those, and then the headlamp is probably the second for me. I've got backups, but I have a primary bright one, and then a secondary that's pretty. I have a Petzl E-light that I use for my backup in the tent light. But changing those two things out.
Do you, as far as headlamps go now, so you're packing 2 headlamps. Have you ever had a bulb? Have you ever lost a bulb on a trip? Not lost it. I mean, burned out.
Not since the newer technology headlamps have come out. Back in the day, yep, I'd have them blow out. But ever since the newer technology headlamps with the newer bulbs, I've never had one blow out.
Do you carry something? I mean, I don't know what type of headlamps you have. I also carry a Surefire that will burn retinas. Do you carry something like that for a blood trailing, or just if you had to light up the night?
Man, you know what? I don't. I have a headlamp. It's similar to a Surefire, same principle. Like 1,200 lumens, right? Same thing. You could see the future when you turn it on, right? Like the city's like, oh Jesus, there was an atomic bomb. But I don't pack that in with me. Now, I say that. On strenuous hunts, I'm saving weight. I carry a 300 lumen headlamp, and it's a Princeton Tech Remix. I carry a Petzl E-light. It's like 1 ounce, and that's like my camp light to save weight, or save that juice on my primary. It takes a watch battery, that Petzl E-light, and lasts forever. And then I have an eye burner back at the truck, whether the truck's 1 mile or 5 miles. If we've come to that crisis level where I need that big of a headlamp, generally I'm going to ribbon it off, and we'll probably come back the next day in daylight. Because if I'm closer, like I said, I'll pack it. And in the case of, like, let's say if I'm in Texas or Alberta or something, to where you're day hunting, no big deal. But man, some of these hunts we go on, not to say that you're not going on the other guys, but man, the last thing I want to do is throw in a third headlamp, and those generally, the battery life sucks on those too.
Well, I go back and forth on it. I got it after my first year of crawling in Alaska looking for blood with a headlamp. I bought this Surefire, and I go back and forth on, whether I take it or not. I do take it on bear hunts, but just curious.
Yeah. So those are some things, that I think about. The other thing is, which is simple as this sounds, it's not a horrible idea. Go through your med kit, things you don't use. Like, there's very few things that go in my pack that I generally, if I don't use it, it doesn't go in the pack. But a med kit, don't use that very often. There's certain pills, like if you carry antibiotics can go bad. If you carry super glue, make sure it hasn't hardened up. Just simple stuff like that. I spot check all those things. I go through my kill kit. I see how much ribbon I have in there, make sure I've got the accordance, the appropriate amount of bags, game bags in there. I go through things that I don't need. I check kind of top to bottom. There's not a whole lot to go over, but I do check all those things. And then on my archery repair kit, I double check, like if my glue's in there, that I make sure I have some, in my case, I carry serving, just 3 feet of extra serving, two 3-foot sections of extra serving in case I got to retie a nail knot for my knocking point or whatever. You can also use it for other crap. I go through, spot check all of that stuff, and I get it ready pretty early because I'm doing, obviously I'm fortunate enough to do back-to-back hunts, so I have to have backups for my backups, and so I'll have 6 or 8 4-ounce of the fuel canisters ready. I have multiple Taito knife blades ready to go. I have ribbon ready to go, game bags ready to go. So not just for the hunt I'm going on, but for the hunts ahead. And then food. If I drink coffee and I know how many I drink a day, and I know how many days about I'm going to be in the field, I have the coffee ready, electrolyte mix ready. I have all that, ready to go. So if I got to come in and go back out, or, if a buddy calls me and is like, hey, I got a mountain go down, I need you to hike in, I bring a night's worth of stuff to help them pack it out. And I'm not forgetting anything because I have it all left to right, dress ready to go.
Yeah, I used to always have a pack ready to go. When I worked construction, it was not uncommon to get called by somebody. My job now is I have less of a social life, but yeah, man, you never know, and I never miss a blood trail. If somebody says, "Hey, will you come help me?" You always learn. So yeah, it was always nice to have a second pack, just an overnighter to grab and go. I miss those days, but
Well, it's hugely beneficial. It helps you not forgetting anything. And, when you're going, on the a little bit more extreme hunts, it's good to double check, triple check everything you've got. Make sure not just underpacking, but overpacking. There's a lot of, do I really need this? And when you're less experienced and you don't know, generally you err to the side of caution and you throw more crap in your pack, and that can be almost having as bad as not having enough if you can't make it to where you're going, or you're pretty well smoked. So, we do gear lists on our YouTube page on Kifaru Gas. Guys can check out. I'm gonna do another one pretty soon. That's probably something that wouldn't be bad for you to do, just the basics. But man, it's the little things that get you. I tell you, it's amazing, the smallest thing. Well, dude, 550 or not 550 cord the serving material. I mean, if you shoot a stick bow and you've got a nail knot for your knocking point, and you don't have something, if that thing comes apart or wears out, and one, you don't know how to tie a nail knot, and two, you don't have anything to do it with, what do you have in your pack that can work for that?
Yeah, I'm a brass knot guy, but I'm thinking the inside of a 550 cord, is that small enough? Probably not.
You could probably rig that up and make it work, possibly, but that's what I mean. And then, obviously having to know how to, you could always just, jerry rig it and tie a bunch of overhand knots over and over and over. But, things like that are, they can be, well, this is off subject, but tack. I just went to tack, and I tie a pinch knot on between my D-loops, the compound, but my pinch knot came loose, and that changed the knotting point an eighth of an inch. So now I'm an 1/8 inch high, and I'm trying to monkey my D-loop down. So I was shooting low, all day long, and it looked like it was fraying, and I knew it ahead of time. And if that happened during season, you don't get to fire a bunch of rounds at foam targets when you're on the side of the mountain, right? I mean, you're kind of like, well, I hope my shit's still dialed in. So just making sure if it can go wrong, it will. Just making sure that everything's taken care of.
So speaking of your bow stuff, what is I'm assuming you have like an archery first aid kit for your bow. What does that look like? What do you got in there besides serving material?
So my like top to bottom exact thing, backup string. I have a ultra lightweight bow, and a lot of guys use their leg or whatever. But anyway, I have a stringer that I made that's super lightweight, and I keep that in there. I usually have a judo tip in there. I don't generally walk around with a judo tip.
Really?
I usually have it in my. I don't. I used to, and I found that grouse are dumb enough that I can just take my pack off and screw a judo tip in. It doesn't really bother anything. So I keep it in my. I don't have it in my archery kit. I keep it in the top of my pack in one of the pockets.
Gotcha.
Because I have unloaded the quiver, but I have not lost the chance of screwing on a judo tip. So just by a simple mathematical common sense, problem, I was like, I think I'll just have 5 broadheads on. So that's what I do now. But I do keep a judo tip with me. It's actually a small game head from VPA. But
yeah.
I have super glue in there. I have some extra string silencers, some extra Velcro, moleskin, whatever, as far as padding goes. And then I have a device in there for just measuring. I do 2 things. I either Sharpie up one of my arrows to what my brace height should be.
Yeah.
So if I jam my nock into my throw to my grip, I have a silver Sharpie mark on my arrow. And then my buddy gave me this. Actually, he showed me. He's got a deal that he uses that is super lightweight, that it's hard to explain. I'll have to take a picture of it, but you can measure your brace height and stuff with that as well. But the arrow thing works real good unless you fling the arrow through something, then you're out of your brace height checker. But I just carry anything I need to do to rebuild the bow for the most part.
How about extra nocks? You throw a couple of extra nocks in there?
Yeah. So with as far as the arrow rebuild kit, I actually carry 2 extra hit inserts, 2 extra collars because I use the iron will system on my Rampage. I usually carry 3 or 4 extra nocks because inevitably I'm shooting stumps and a knock blows out and I can't find it.
Yeah.
So I carry a few extra, nocks, and then obviously the super glue is big. And then I actually pack quite a few arrows in. I'll have this way I think I'm using that Selway Chinook quiver. It holds 5 arrows. And I generally pack a dozen arrows total in. I stump shoot a lot when I'm back there. And so I, inevitably I'm going to lose some. So I try to keep 5 with broadheads all the time. If I shoot, miss, wound one, kill one, whatever, I just, reload it. And arrows aren't that heavy. And I
you carry them in a tube.
I don't want to lose a battle because I don't have enough weapons.
Do you carry a tube? You have them in a little arrow tube on the outside of your pack?
Not anymore. I used to with the feathers just to keep them protected. But not to mention trad vanes, but since I use trad vanes now, I just strap them right to the pack. Sure.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Another bonus of trad vanes for all you trad vane haters out there.
And I'm digging them. I have one more arrow with feathers on it. I almost stripped it to bear shaft the other day, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna keep that one around for. And then when I was making a video this morning, I think I mentioned stripping feathers off. It's I switched to trad vanes, but I've been saying feathers for 30 something years, so I'm still calling them feathers.
It's funny. AJ Dubé, I sold him a bunch of arrows super cheap. I like AJ. And I think he had 9 of them in there that were bloody. And he's like, oh, I wonder what this one killed. I went, well, dude, with the feathers, you're stripping that thing off once it's gone through an animal.
Oh, yeah.
Where trad vanes, badge of honor. You got a bloody trad vane, and you just keep on keeping on. So there's a lot of bonuses to those things. I know they're not trad or whatever, but like we just hit a bad storm when we hiked in, and would the feathers have been okay? Yeah, probably. You can hunt for quite a while with feathers, and they got the powder on there. You can look like a cokehead and put that shit on, and you can spray them like I did. I sprayed that stuff you put on upholstery.
Like Scotch Guard or something.
Like hell. Scotch Guard, yep.
Yeah, it stinks like hell. Oof.
Oh yeah, it's my scent checker. When shit's running away, I know the wind's blowing the wrong way. So and it's hard for me. Like the other day, I put feathers on one of my arrows just to test, or on 3 arrows to test groups against the trad vanes. And dude, I get it. I understand the tradition. I totally understand that. If you don't like them, I totally understand that. It is hard to argue though that they are super handy.
Well, that was the noise factor that probably really tipped me over. There were several reasons I was digging them, and I was.
Well, they don't make any noise.
No, in flight, they don't make any noise. They don't make any noise brushing up against stuff. But yeah, to each his own. Doesn't matter to me. Shoot what you want to shoot.
I know guys send me emails occasionally. Like, I just want you to know I'm not going to shoot trad vanes. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to let you know I'm not putting mayonnaise on my sandwich tonight.
I know.
I care as much about that as you do about my mayonnaise.
Well,
but thanks for letting me know.
Okay. I'll message you. I'll message you what color socks I'm wearing tomorrow, just so you know.
Oh, I tell you, it's like, guys, I didn't. It's a tool in the toolbox. Like that's the.
Hey, if you want to wear a gray shirt, you wear a gray shirt. If you want to wear a white shirt, you wear a white shirt. You pick, man.
Yeah, exactly.
You pick. Hey, I got a quick question for you. So what do you use to camo your face, right? And I ask for a reason because I use something. I grabbed a different product the other day and I was pissed. I was bummed. What do you use?
Say that again now.
So when you got to put a little black on your face, a little kind of shade your face, a little camouflage, what are you using?
Predator war paint is what I've started using the last couple of years.
You know, I went into my last day on my bear stand. I was like super scent cautious, right? I had my stuff in a plastic bag. I sprayed down. Everything about it was like I took the most care ever because I really thought I had a crack at that big bear. And before I took off, I don't know, it's in a little orange container. It's just a face paint you put on. The minute I put it on, I could smell it. Well, I have been using, and I don't know why, I have been using just like a cork and just charcoal. And, all of that country in central Idaho that I hunt is burned. So I just gently just rub my hand on a tree and rub it on your face. But, that's something for people to think about. I'm sure hardcore whitetail guys already are keyed onto that. But that crap I put on my face stunk like heck.
I tell you, like, I used the two that I used Carbo Mask Forever. It doesn't smell. It's not horrible for your skin. I use the Predator War Paint because it doesn't wear off and it's SPF 50. And as stupid as it sounds, if I'm going to wear face paint, dude, it's the elevation in the sun in Colorado. It is bad.
That probably does make sense.
Our camp will be at just at 12,000 feet the first few days of the season. That's how high we hunt them in the beginning of the season. And I paint my ears and guys are like, man, you really get creative with the paint. And I'm like, no, I don't want to get skin cancer. So I paint up, and then the war paint doesn't smell. That, and it's a, former team guy that came out with it. He's a badass dude. So it washes off easy with soap when you get home, and it doesn't sweat off easy. So I've had really good luck with that. But I will say, if you buy that, like, Hunter Specialties, yeah, it's like you're putting on Halloween paint. It smells like shit.
Oh, well, really the reason I ask is you really have nice, your skin looks really nice. So I was just curious what skin.
That's all the water I drink, and I use a loofah.
No, and I think that's what it was Hunter Specialty or something like that. Man, I was so pissed off when I put that on. I went through all this trouble, and now my face smells like a chemical bucket. I don't know. Well,
it's funny because the first time I go out, I pay attention in the mirror and put it on. About day 3, I'm just I'm like Arnold, just rolling around in the mud. I just smear whatever. I just need to get the shine off, and I don't give a shit after that.
Well, yeah, and
paint on it.
And then your sleeping bag gets all that crap all over it. Looks awesome.
Well, the thing that kills me, and I'm a super stickler, maybe my time in the military, but you got $10,000 in Sitka on, the most state-of-the-art camo known to man, except the one thing that an animal looks at is the human face. They're not staring at your knee, I promise you. They're looking at your face, and that thing is white as a ghost. And so I'm like, the shine of your face and everything. It's like, why aren't you painting your hands and your face if you wear camo? Like, that's what sticks out the most.
I've mentioned it on this podcast before, and it's something we all know, right? Your face shines. It was driven home to me in Alaska one year. I knew where the tree stand was. I was maybe 400, maybe 500 yards upriver. It was a straight stretch of river. We had hunters in a tree stand with a guide. And I knew where it was. I'm like, are those guys in that tree? And I got my binos up and I'm staring right in there and I cannot see them. I'm like, damn, they're not there. And then the dude turns his face and the sun was at my back, and it was, you might as well have turned a flashlight on in the dark. It was for that time on, I was like, holy smokes, the amount of light us white-faced people give off is amazing.
Yeah, and that is exactly the same thing for me. It was whitetail hunting, or guiding in, like flagging a dude in for sheep. Yeah, your face is what you find, and again, I literally, like, you see it in a tree stand, you glass and you're looking across and you see another hunter, you're seeing his face. I mean, and imagine that's our eyesight. Think what a deer's seeing. So
yeah. So, are you backpacking for elk?
Yeah, we're going in. It's a public land deal. just normal, whatever backpack hunt. It did take a point to draw. So, we'll probably, we can't go too far. We'll probably hunt the first 5 days, like from, 0 or whatever to 3 miles in, hunt that, for whatever, 4, 5, 6 days, and then come out, whatever, shower, grab more food, and then go back in for another 5 or 6 in a different area. All of them. I try not to go more than 3 miles as a crow flies, with another guy for elk. I've done 6 with, in one trip with one elk, and I'm quite certain it, me and another guy splitting in half probably took 10 to 15 years off, life off my body. So I try not to go too far, and it's a lot easier sales pitch to, call a guy and say, hey man, we're only a couple miles in or so, than, hey man, we're 7 miles in. You want to help? The volunteer rate goes down quickly when you say 7. I found, like, there's not a lot of guys saying, oh, I'll be right there. So that's another thing to think about.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was getting at is you hear folks, I'm going to go out west and backpack for elk. If I'm backpacking for elk, I really want to find another area. You don't mind like staying out overnight to be in the right spot, but man, I really don't want to be 4, 5, 6 miles from a truck with an elk. Criminy sakes. I don't know. You hunting, are you hunting up from the truck or are you hunting down? That makes a difference somewhat.
Well, in our case, like, it's up, but the reality is we can get picked up. My wife will pick us up anywhere. So I'm not too worried about that. And that does make a difference. That's something you got to think about. And the trip for where we're packing out is going to be the majority, no matter where we kill it, because we have access. My wife will come get us. We'll be downhill. And so we plotted the loop out to where it'll be 3 miles at the most, but it could be 3. And 3 miles for me is doable. Even with half an elk is doable. If it's downhill, it's not a problem. When I say that, I'm not talking North Idaho 1,000-pound bulls or Oregon Rosies or whatever. A good bull in Colorado, 700 pounds. At 700 pounds, you're getting 30% deboned of meat. So you're looking at 210 plus to ish pounds. So you're looking at 100 each. If we leave our gear in there, I can pack 100 pounds pretty much anywhere. So, roughly. And again, this isn't everybody, and that's just me. If I have to, I can do it. But that is not an internet 100 pounds. That's a legit 100. And people really need to not just throw 100 pounds in the garage and say, that's not too bad. Go walk up a hill with 100 pounds on. It is a mental and physical commitment. You got to be ready to do it, because last thing you want to do is waste any meat.
No, and you got the horns to consider.
Or snap a cankle.
Yeah, you got the horns to consider.
So let me preface that. I don't worry about the horns because I don't take that on the trip. I worry about the meat because the horns stay at camp. And again, I'm what the world's worst. I don't mount anything. If it gets Euro mounted, it's a miracle. We leave the horns at camp. We tie them up and hang them so nothing drags them off, obviously, because we got to come back and get our camp. I try not to ever come back with half a bull in camp because you will blow out a uterus. It is bad doing that. And so we'll come out, get the meat taken care of, and then we come back in and we'll generally keep hunting if another guy's a tag. And then when I come out, 40, 50 pounds of gear, and then the rack, it's, even on a big bull, a rack isn't horrible if you don't have the meat.
Yeah.
You have the meat in the rack. It is, as you talk about a monkey football, put 100 pounds on your back with something sticking out the side.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
It sucks.
It's like a wheelie bar back there. That's too low.
Smartest thing I started doing was tying a stick across the rack so it keeps it away from my butt off the bottom of the pack. So I put it where the rack goes down and the skull, the nose is facing away from my head. And then I tie a stick across the rack so it rests on the bottom of my pack and keeps it from pivoting a lot.
Yeah, I did that I did that last year. I've done that a few times, but I did it last year, and it was frustrating because as wide as the rack was, I'm looking for aluminum sticks, right? I don't want an extra 3 friggin' pounds of stick. Like, you got any aluminum sticks out here?
You definitely need to find the aspen. You want to put like a springy aspen that can take some abuse. You're right. I mean, the other thing too is, you throw 18 inches on either side of you.
Oh yeah,
it's a whole new world. It's like, I can make it through that. Wrong. And the next thing you know, you're stuck in a wedge. Yeah, you look like Dikembe Mutombo. No, not in my house.
Yeah, I'm not, and me personally, right? I'm not a beast in the woods by any means, but just personally speaking, people really need to, if you think you can, like if you've never done it and you think you can, you want to just like dial it down a notch, because I took half a bull one time downhill, and you'll attest, downhill is no cakewalk. It's almost as bad as uphill. When you feel like you
toll on your knees, it's probably worse.
Yeah, and when you feel like your knees are going to blow out sideways, that's not good. that's not good at all.
No, I not to go down memory lane, but I was thinking about some of the dumber shit I've said in my life, like on bow sight. I used to train with 80, 90 pounds.
Oh.
And, and I that was something I told people to do. And then old guys, well, I say old like you and I now, you don't need to do that. And I'm like, whatever, pussy. Well, here I am telling guys now, 45 pounds, 60 at the most. I'm speaking from experience. I got nothing out of training with that heavy of a weight in comparison to doing realistic 40 to 45, 60, whatever, uphills and in legitimate routes that I would take while hunting to get side hill, get your shins and your calves ready, your ankles as far as lateral stability, and, getting the heart rate up with that much weight. I don't have any problem now when I got to throw on 100 where I'm saving, I guess, life on my legs, on my knees and things like that, hips.
I think I brought it up. I think you and I were talking, I don't know, maybe it was this year or last year. It was driven home to me again, how you can jog, you can run, you can work on a gym, get on a treadmill, do all that stuff. But when you have actual weight on your back in the woods, be it on a trail or just walking through the woods, like you said, the lateral movement of your ankle, and I don't know all the tendons and ligaments and all that stuff in there, but man, it makes a difference when your ankles and feet are having to disperse the weight on uneven ground and stepping over logs. I mean, there's got to be a huge benefit to that, to when you see guys just walking with a pack up the road. If you can get off road and walk through the woods, I got to think that's going to help out immensely.
I tell you what, we're talking about what's helping out. What's helping me out is living at 10,000 feet. Cody and I just going out. I'm pretty sure he called me a sea sucker several times because I don't get winded very often because I live at 10,000 feet. It's joyous. It's great. My white or red blood cell count or whatever it is has to be skyrocketed because, dude, I just don't get winded that often because I live up so high now. But the one thing you do notice is, like you're talking about, even downhill, your knees. Doing an ascent for a mile that's, a legitimate 20, 30% slope. Dude, the next day I'm like, I thought I was in shape. Shit, I'm sore.
Yeah.
You're just not used to it. And side hill's another one, not just, your ankles, everything you just talked about, but also hot spots. That shear from sliding side to side, like it's amazing what you're not used to, no matter how hard you train, unless you train exactly like you're hunting.
Yeah, let me ask you that. When I was in the Frank Church back when I was younger, side hilling was just, of course, I was running Danners. I mean, we had crap equipment and all that. Side hilling just sucked. When you side hill, are you trying to kick your feet in and run your foot flat? Or is your ankle rolling with the terrain? Does that make sense?
Man, so I'm pronated, so I walk on the outsides of my feet.
Mm-hmm.
So my ankle is naturally rolling down the side hill. So if that makes any sense, I literally watching me from the back looks goofy because it's like I got spaghetti legs. Because you see my ankle rolling down, and I don't, knock on wood, I don't twist ankles. I literally have probably not twisted an ankle, well, maybe ever. I can't remember twisting an ankle, but I do feel a lot of strain on parts of my legs and outer shins and things like that. That, you know, again, if you don't train like you're actually going to be doing it, you're going to have painful parts of your body that you didn't know can be painful. If you've never done it before.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And the reason why I ask is, I feel like I could go to a more flexible boot. Now I've got some things squared away with my feet, in the form of insoles. But, you know, when I side hill, I like to kick my foot and try to keep my foot flat. That's kind of, you know, if that makes sense, right? So I'm kicking my boot in with a stiff boot. You can get away without rolling your ankle to the contour of the hill.
Yeah, and I'm a bad example of that. I was afraid to even say what I do because the way that I walk is a very good way to roll an ankle.
Well, you probably got very strong ankles from doing it all. We got wicked strong ankles, Snyder.
You know what? So I guess my physical therapist buddy told me, which this is not a good thing, because we were talking about Frank and my wife and I were talking about how I got crazy balance and I never twist an ankle, and he said, "Yeah, dummy, that's because you're so non-flexible. If anything twists, it's going to break because nothing's giving. And so for you to actually twist an ankle, he's like, you're probably going to break it." And I'm like, "Oh, that's good to know."
We're kind of jumping all over the map here. It's good stuff. Back to gear. What's your kill kit look like?
Man, it's fairly simple. I got it pretty well dialed down. So I carry either tag bags or like the Black Ovis bags or whatever. I carry the synthetic nylon game bags, and generally I carry 4 or 5 of the bigger cylindrical. They stay. It's more of a tube to stay upright in your pack for debone meat. If that makes any sense. And then I have a couple extras for like tendies or tenderloins and back straps. I have a small amount, but a decent amount of ribbon. I carry reflective 2.3 millimeter guy line. It just shines really well. So if you're trying to find game bags hanging in the night, they're in there. And then I have a Taito knife, and then the Taito blades or Havalon blades. So one thing I've actually put in there, which probably seems a little bit crazy, is extra super glue, because inevitably I nick myself. And then I glue myself back together. It's been super handy. I got to say, it's just a small thing of Gorilla Glue or AA Fast Set Gel. Or Durabond, if you can get a hold of Durabond. That's actually a medical super glue. It doesn't weigh much, and inevitably I'm nicking my hand. And so if I do that, I just get the bleeding stop, and then I smear glue on it, burns like hell, and then it doesn't bleed anymore. So
nice. You're not a rubber glove guy?
Nope, I don't wear them. You know what? I say that when I start messing with bears now, I wear gloves a bit more because all my buddies who are bear guys get blood poisoning at least once a year that are doing a lot of bears. Doesn't seem to happen with other animals as much, but bears, I don't know if that's some voodoo witchcraft bro science shit, but I started wearing them for bears.
Yeah. For me, I wear them, and it's for one purpose and one purpose only. Is I just cannot stand when my cuticles are all freaking gummed up with elk or deer or bear or whatever it is, and you got to smell it the next day. It drives me crazy. So they weigh nothing. I slip them on. It's the way I roll.
It's funny. I see guys. I got nothing against rubber gloves. I got a box, in the in my man cave or whatever, and I see guys. Whatever, the P word, right? Wearing gloves, and the way men's brains work, right? Why is it not manly to wear a glove? Like, Why would that be a bad thing? Like, I generally don't, because I forget them. Like, I don't, but I make special care to remember them when I'm heading up to a bear hunt.
I know.
But
hey, Michael,
I found
Michael Jackson wore them.
Yeah, look at him. I mean, he had that Playland place, but I just, what was that place called that he had? I can't remember with all the toys. Macaulay Culkin hung out there. The blood thing. One thing I have found what's crazy is I don't drink Coke or Pepsi. I don't drink any pop or soda or whatever you want to call it. My buddy, who doesn't drink Coke either, we got back to the trailhead after cleaning out his moose, and he broke out a Coke, and I'm like, "What is that? Your beer?" And he goes, "No, watch this, dude. Coke takes blood off your hand, like you poured alcohol or mineral spirits on it. You think about what that shit's doing to your stomach, dude. It's the smartest thing I'd ever seen. Well, maybe not the smartest, but top 3. He's like, hold your hands out, hold it out." Just ate away all the blood out of the cuticles, everything.
You're kidding.
And of course, then I'm thinking, just think about how many people are drinking Coke. It's probably eating your insides out like battery acid.
Nasty.
Well,
yeah.
You pour Coke on your post of your battery to clear off battery acid. What the hell does that say? So anyway, so I have, with what you're talking about, if my hands are real bloody, man, I've stopped at stores and grabbed a can of Coke and took it in the bathroom and washed my hands with it. And then, just rinse it off so they're not sticky. Dude, it's money. I mean, takes it right off.
Look, why buy it? Just walk over to the soda fountain thing, right? Push the button like you're buying one. Just wash your hands.
Wash your hands like the push button. Push the little plastic peg, rinse it off. Yeah, nothing to see here. I'll buy a large Coke.
Nothing to see here. That's funny.
yeah, exactly. But so yeah, my kill kit's pretty. It serves its purpose. The guy line, I started doing that. I quit packing 550 cord in my pack, just because it's reflective and like we were talking about with the headlamp thing. It's super handy. You got 15 feet of cord, or generally I find a down log that I'll get up there and bear hug the bag, and my buddy, I'll flip it up and try to get it up over my head. And my buddy will wrap it around like a deadfall, just so it's high enough to get it out of the way. And it's easy to find. And then in some cases, especially if you got marmots or black bears are a big problem. A lot of times, man, we hang things, game bags off cliffs, so a bear can't get it.
Yeah.
And so it's easier to find a glowing white line of 20 feet hanging off a cliff. And I know it seems crazy, but you get where bears and marmots, those things, dude, they'll eat your meat quick. Like, it's not good. And marmots are everywhere. Hell, they'll eat your brake lines. I mean, they were doing pull-ups on our brake lines when we left the trailhead in one of the units. Like, they did $3,700 of damage on my buddy's firewall. Like, they ate his firewall.
Now, is that marmot or pack rat? I know pack rats have done that.
Marmot.
Really?
No, marmots, man. Marmots. Well, and then you think on the newer technology vehicles in your transfer case, when you shift to 4-wheel drive, right, there's no more hubs anymore. It's twisted. You twist the little knob, push the button. Well, in your key case, there's what's that called? Not a fuse, but the chip or the wide, it doesn't matter, but there's electricity hooked to it, and they eat that cord. And if you were in 4-wheel drive when you drove in, it's stuck in 4-wheel drive now.
Oh, really?
And we've had that happen to multiple vehicles. So this has nothing to do with a kill kit. But when you're back there, we started hanging stuff off cliffs a lot, just to keep that from happening.
We had a couple years ago, we killed a bear in the spring, and we had a nice snowdrift there in camp. So we laid it on some poles on the snow, and we're like, oh, this is money, right? I mean, we can be here for days. It's just sitting there on nice, chilling. We went to roll it out of there, went to get it out of there, and freaking mice had gone up and chewed underneath the logs, through the game bags, and was nibbling on the meat. That was kind of pissed you off. But
dude, I got to tell a story about the marmots. So now there's a marmot season in Colorado when we were in the season, just so I don't get myself in trouble. But we're driving up to this place, and my buddy, he's got a 9mm in the truck, and anyway, so I'm blasting some marmots on the way up the road. We've got one of our buddies is swinging a little left, right. Dude, what are you shooting those things for? And I'm like, well, they're kind of a problem, man. There's millions of them back here. Like, dude, they wreak havoc on the vehicle. And he gave me a little talking to. He wasn't real keen on that, and I respect him, totally get it. So we park his brand new Rubicon Jeep at the trailhead, jacked up, rolling 20s, badass machine. Go out for 4 days, come back, truck won't start. Huh, I'll be damned. Open the hood, a couple of them are hanging out in there. Wiring's eaten up, battery cables are gone. Lo and behold, he has become a marmot hunter now because, they ate everything out of the vehicle, dude.
Oh.
Everything. They ate the seat off the four-wheelers. They ate the gas lines, like on the four-wheeler, like literally. So he, on the trip back down the mountain after the insane amount of money he spent on the tow truck, he immediately became a marmot hunter. It was a miracle. It was overnight. Did a flip flop.
It's funny. One of the things you'll see in Idaho is you ride up to these trailheads, and oftentimes you'll see people with their hoods up, right? So they just leave your hood up because the freaking pack rats will climb right up on the engine, with the hood down. They climb right up there and they nest, and they'll chew every bit of wiring out of that thing.
Good Lord.
Yeah, that would suck. That would suck for sure.
Yeah. While we're talking about this, another thing to think about other than what's in your pack is also what you might want to leave in your vehicle. Like, I don't leave anything too expensive, but you want to leave an extra headlamp, an extra couple days of food. If you're a beer drinker, not a horrible idea to have a 6-pack in. Well, you probably don't want to drink a 6-pack of beer on your way home. So if you're camping at the truck, slam a beer. I have kombucha usually at the truck. I know as fucking granola heady as that is. Change of socks, moleskin, like, Luco tape, whatever you might need back there. Even, if you don't want to pack an extra string in, leave it at the truck. Like, not a horrible idea to have things like that in the truck just in case.
Water, man. How many times you get back to the truck, you're out of water and you're dying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. The electrolyte drink mix. I mean, just crap like that. I mean, you probably burned, who knows how many calories. So, if you like a Snickers, throw that thing in a Yeti or whatever with some ice and have them cold. I mean, whatever it is, especially if you're just going to the truck to refit and I say refit, tack, whatever, military, resupply and head back in. Any kind of a quick pick-me-up isn't a horrible idea, back at the truck. So that's something else to think about.
Those one specific trip we do, and I don't do it all the time. I mean, I don't get crazy. I don't get carried away. But one specific trip that we do, it's not on it. It has in the past happened to where you pack meat out and leave your camp in and do a quick turn, or you try to do a quick turnaround. So I guess my point is having if you have an extra sleeping bag, leaving that in the truck. I've done that before. That can be more convenience than it's not necessarily a lifesaver, but more convenience.
Oh yeah. Yep. And, I think a good way to look at it is you don't, if something can go wrong, will go wrong, but you don't want to carry in on your back that mentality because you probably won't make it. So you don't want to overload within your pack. And that's kind of what I'm getting at with what's in the truck. You need to stay as Spartan as possible while you're still staying safe and be able to sustain yourself. But, when I travel for hunts in Canada or out of state, I pack an extra set of limbs. I sometimes a backup bow, but, Jake usually packs a backup bow. I definitely carry extra arrows and broadheads in the car. I certainly bring them when I travel, to different states or Canada or whatever. You don't want to overload yourself in your pack, but you definitely, if you've driven out from back east and you don't want to leave a bow in the car. So what I do, if because you don't want your limbs to delaminate or get overheated, I actually put my backup bow in my cooler. So the heat of the truck doesn't overheat it.
I'll be damned. That's something I was thinking of because kind of had that that scenario situation this year, and I didn't bring an extra bow just because I would never have thought of putting it in a cooler. It's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know how many times working at a pro shop or helping out where guys come in and you can't even touch the riser and the limbs are delaminated. It is a problem, and the vehicle gets hot. And so inside of your cooler, you don't want to get everything wet, obviously. So one of the things, we carry extra garbage bags anyway, contractor bags. So the lower level, obviously I have the ice and I'll lay out the contractor bag, and whether it be, the bow, right, the limbs or whatever, anything that needs to stay cool, I just throw in that cooler.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. And then, you mentioned the game bags. This is something I've been pretty weak in, and I realized it a couple of years ago. I've, for years, again, old school, I've used the old Alaskan game bags, right? Use one and done. Get 4 in a package, whatever. I usually carry like 5 or 6 of them. It didn't dawn on me till a couple of years ago how damn heavy those things are. And my buddy had some of those, high end, synthetic bags, and that's a huge difference, man. I have got to get some of those.
Yeah, it's night and day. And you know what? I mean, those Alaskan game bags, if you're truck hunting or whatever, then it's not a horrible idea. But I've got a set of game bags I just gave to a buddy that I think I packed out 6 animals with them, and I didn't give them to him because they were used. It was just the ones that were in my pack, and I threw my kill kit, and I was like, "Hey, dude, that's what you need right there. Take that, and when you go to get new stuff, just mimic it." It saves weight. They're easy to clean. You easy to wash. You bleach them. They're no problem at all. So I know they're kind of expensive, but if you take care of them, they will last for quite a while on the more synthetic game bags. So,
well, now I have one of the smaller, Rubbermaid totes that's always in my truck, and it carries game bags. So I'll have 4 or 5 or 6 heavy canvas bags, right? So when they get to the truck, I strip whatever bag they're in. I strip them out of that, put them in a clean bag. So now they're in this nice canvas bag. You can kind of spread them out a little bit more, and I do that. But yeah, those Alaskan bags are certainly heavier than that stuff you're running.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and it's also a matter of with synthetic cotton holds bacteria. It's the quickest way to ruin meat long term. And so with nylon, and people use pillowcases, whatever, I get it, but we leave that we stay back there 5 or 6 extra days after we've killed an animal. And if you can if you can keep it in a cool spot, you're just lessening the chance of losing meat by using a synthetic compared to a cotton.
Yeah, no, I would not recommend leaving something 5 or 6 days in a cotton bag, for sure.
Yeah. It's just stuff to think about. And obviously what I'm doing is different than some as far as the more longer. Like Cody and I both have tags, so if I kill one, we're certainly not coming out right after I kill it. We're gonna, that and the meat tastes better if you let it hang. I don't say age because that's probably a bad way to put it. I let I'm real careful. We did a podcast about this, so listen to that one as far as meat care. But I let it, as long as the meat's not gonna go bad, I'll let it hang for a few days, get the blood to drip out of it and everything, and we'll keep hunting as long as that meat's good. And then obviously we've killed 2 bulls within a couple times the same day. It's not a problem. Take your time, as long as you haven't walked in farther than you should. As long as you keep that meat cool, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So just take your time, don't hurt yourself, and keep your meat in a cool spot. So
yeah, I was going to say, there's no sense in walking out with just 1 bull, right? You might as well shoot 2, make the trip worth it.
Yeah, exactly. And I again, as I was saying that, if you're not physically prepared, don't kill 2 bulls 3.5 miles in. Yeah. Although I'd say that's a good character builder, but they're more than most likely, you're going to injure yourself, and you may lose meat. So just, don't write, what's that saying? Don't write checks your
body can't cash. Yeah.
Like
You might lose a friend over the deal too.
Yeah. No kidding. Luckily, Frank the Tank is about as dependable as you can get. I mean, literally call him like 17 miles in, he's like, well, do you need me to pack anything else? I'll grab my hat. See you guys soon. He always comes, but you don't always have a Frank. So you be prepared for a lot of no's.
What else you got for gear? I mean, we're not getting right down into stoves and tents and stuff like that, but how else are you prepping?
The fuel thing, make sure, obviously, a lot of guys take a guess, as far as how much fuel they need. So it's a good idea, obviously, pack what you need and then keep an extra canister in the truck. Something I also recommend keeping in the cooler. If you raise a lot of altitude and then leave that thing in the vehicle, I've heard of them blowing up from the altitude and heat. So, be cognizant of that. Come into an isobutane smelling vehicle. But, something to think about. Make sure, obviously, that you have enough fuel. I usually figure on one of the smaller canisters that's good for about 4.5 to 5 days, 2 boils a day. Meaning I boil coffee in the morning and then, for dinner at night. And then the general gist for food, I'm pretty anal retentive as far as caloric intake. So I don't just jam a bunch of crap in a bag. I pay attention to my macros and total caloric intake. I'm pretty anal about that. And I try to do, pretty close to, roughly 30% fat, 30% protein, and then 40% carbs is what I'm trying to take in on my macros. And I try to take in, especially on a rough hunt, at least 3,000 calories a day, but usually I'm pushing closer to 3,500. The other thing too, I bring electrolyte drink mix in. So stay cognizant of that. I bring at least 2 electrolyte drink mix packets, whether it's like a Wilderness Athlete Hydrate and Recover or a Liquid IV. We have adult, good Lord, I forgot the name, but what is it kids drink?
Pedialyte?
Pedialyte. Adult Pedialyte is badass. That stuff works really well. So I bring those on super tough hunts. So again, just common sense stuff. Don't overweigh yourself, but you also want to make sure, you want to be without the risk of sounding like Cameron Haynes, you want to be a monster on the mountain from day 1 to day 10, however long you're staying back there. I personally try to take the things with me that are going to help that. Dude, I pack in krill oil and turmeric, curcumin, and probiotics. I take those while I'm back there. It's worth it to me, the extra little bit of weight. So I actually, when I say that on 5-day hunts or less, I pack that in, unless I can pack it in early, and I take those things with me.
Dang, man. Yeah, my body, I don't know what kind of fuel my body runs like you. You got to dial down to a science. I feel like I'm taking some high end stuff, but yeah, not like that. But of course, I don't hunt like you either. I mean, I hit it pretty hard, and I'll have days where it's freaking super hard, but it ain't 14 days super freaking hard every day. Just no, it's just, I can't do that.
Well, I mean, it's not exactly, I mean, most people, I'm not pounding my chest for this. I mean, not a lot of people are going to find that fun. I mean, even me, and I like being out there 5 to 7 days anymore, unless it's a mule deer or a sheep hunt or something, where we're glassing every day or whatever, like with elk, you've probably blown them out in 5 to 7 days anyway, and you need to go out and come into a different area. So when guys are like, yeah, we're backpacking in for 14 days for elk, I'm like, good luck.
How many units?
I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Yeah. How many units you hunting?
Oh yeah. Well, Cody and I were just talking about it, and we, for the first 14 days of the season, which I'm probably going to have to go into work a little bit in there, but we're going to do like 5, 5, and 5, and the idea being with weekends and everything else or whatever, or 5, 5, and 4, obviously, just because, again, you're burnt out, they're blown out. something's gone wrong anyway. So you can always backpack into where you were, but we loop around and hit different areas.
You and I did I felt like it was a really, really good podcast about this time last year, maybe in August. And it was about this exact stuff about, how to treat, a hunting area, elk hunting area. And so, yeah, anybody listening to this and are intrigued, that was a really good podcast. I think it was like geared to somebody coming out west, like.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think, the more you go, the first time you're going to have, you're going to learn so much. And, you want to make sure and, you want to take notes of everything that you're learning, while you're back there, and you want to learn each time. So the first time you come out west and you go, probably going to be an epic cluster F. And then, once you get the hang of that, yeah, and get an idea from the first trip, try to learn from that one. And, you can't, you don't know what you don't know. And so, what am I trying to say here? Just try to have fun when you're out there, because I promise you, you are going to get your ass kicked the first go around, but, try to make the best out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, it was all about expectations, managing your expectations. Yeah, for sure. What the hell is it gonna cow calls? What are you shooting for broadhead this year for elk?
Oh, I'm probably gonna shoot the cutthroat 3-blade for sure. I'll probably shoot some cutthroat 3 blades, and then a standard cutthroat, and then some iron wills.
Nice. What else are we missing?
What about you?
I'm pretty stoked about those iron wills. Now, I had several of them in the quiver this year, extended period of times. I've got to get them out and touch them up. And I'm going to look again look up some videos that Bill has out there on touching them up. I got a feeling that's not going to be like touching up my old Magnus heads. That's probably going to be a little more intense, but, tickled with the way they hold an edge. But a whole season in and out of the quiver and all that stuff, I like my stuff as sharp as I can get it.
Yeah, for sure. That is one other thing I guess we could talk about real quick. Field sharpening broadheads. There's several different options out there for field sharpening broadheads, and if you shoot a 3-blade, it's a lot easier because you can just use a standard flat, like a file or sharpener. They do have single bevel and double bevel little handheld. Benchmade makes them. Iron Will's got them. Valkyrie's got them. That you can touch up your broadhead with that. If you're trying to, it is not going to be factory sharp. So if you touch that thing from factory sharp, you're actually going to dull it. But if you need to sharpen a broadhead, it's not a horrible idea to have a way to touch up some broadheads, in your pack if it's lightweight enough.
And did you say you had something, or do you carry something? You sound like you got enough broadheads that you don't really need to sharpen them.
Not in the field normally, but I do carry a little handheld sharpener, and I think the one I have two. One's from Iron Will, and one's from Grizzly Stick. The one from Grizzly Stick does single and double bevels. Iron Will just does a single, and it's got the same bevel as an Iron Will, and it's literally about 1.5 inches wide, probably weighs 2 ounces, and it'll do a great job at getting it sharp enough, at least to where you're going to have you should be able to shave with it, unless it's totally just bonkers as far as you fired into the dirt or something, but it'll certainly touch it up and get it pretty dang sharp.
Yeah, I'm going to have 5 broadheads let's see, I have 4 or 5 broadheads. I always have a judo already locked and loaded, just in case that stump, I don't want it to get away. If I'm sharpening 4 or 5 broadheads, touching them up, I had a bad day.
Something has gone terribly wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm probably broke my bow in half, to be honest with you. I don't need broadheads. I freaking swung that thing up against a lodge pole.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny that like this year, my main focus is on antelope and elk because I've been kind of focusing on mule deer and other species. So I am actually going on, as I said, 3 different mule deer hunts this year. But the mentality is a little bit different. For elk with me, as far as with mule deer, we're back there for 14 days. You're behind glass a lot. Like, hell, I'm thinking about it. Not even bring binoculars, right? Like, I'm going to bring some, but my packing list is different. The way that you hunt elk is different. There's a lot of different stuff going on with each, species you hunt. And so I'm going on a mountain goat hunt with Phelps this year. He drew an insane tag in Washington on a mountain I've been on a bunch. And like that hunt, I'm going to have crampons. I'm going to have an ice axe. I'm going full rip potato chip for that one. And then elk, like my main thing is I got calls, and then, I don't want to get hungry. We're going to be back there for 5 days. We're going to be super mobile. My shelter's a little different. We're not above tree line as much. We're starting just at or inside a tree line. And so I kind of shift my priorities, quite a bit as far as what I'm bringing in and what I'm doing. I'm not bringing anything like stocking socks or anything like that for elk. And it's just, each animal requires a totally different, really pain in the ass is what it boils down to.
When does your elk season start?
This year is the first year they've done it. They started a week late. So it starts September 3rd, which I'm curious, starts on a Wednesday. That's never happened before. I'm kind of, curious how this goes as far as you might walk into a rut fest. The elk might be in different places because they haven't been pushed out of places early like, they had before. So, it'll be an interesting season. I'm going with one of the coolest dudes I've ever met. My buddy, Cody Covey, he's going in with me. He got the tag too. So, I'm excited.
Well, a draw unit, is that going to be, what's the hunt pressure going to be? I mean, is it going to be like easy to draw, or how many tags do they get? I mean, you're going to have a quality, not a lot of pressure hunt, or
it should be, well, there'll be pressure. I mean, they give out a ton of tags. It's just a 1-point unit. So it's not like I've been waiting for 20 years to draw it or anything, but pressure is a little bit less than over the counter, which I hunt over the counter. Well, I haven't in the last, obviously, couple of years because I've been going on a ton of other hunts, but, I've hunted over the counter most of my life like anyone else, and pressure is a little bit less, but I know the area relatively well. I've hunted it twice before, I guess. I hunted it once before. I helped a guy another time, and they do give out a pretty decent amount of tags for the unit. I think there's 230 or might be 280 with muzzleloader tags. But I rearranged my mule deer hunt. One of them got canceled, so I'm going to be really just focusing on elk for September. And I was lucky enough the first time I went out with a stick bow. I killed a decent enough bull, and I'm hoping that I haven't hunted him since then, so I'm hoping that I can put a decent enough one on the ground. But Cody and I were talking that, a 5x5 walks in front of me, he might have to tackle me to not shoot it because I like elk meat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's either sex where I hunt, and it's brown. It's getting an arrow in it. It's, you know what? I just enjoy punching tags. It's like that. I always do the same thing every year, man. You dream about killing the biggest bull in the mountain. You work at killing the biggest bull in the mountain. Man, a satellite comes by and he's getting it.
Oh, dude, Cody and I are both in the same boat because I told him, I was like, man, I've killed some big elk before. I want you to kill a monster. Let's focus on me just getting something down. And he's like, dude, I say the same thing every year. And then a raghorn walks in front of me and I shoot it. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I feel your pain. I mean, it's hard, even a small bull's 500 pounds. That's a lot of meat.
Oh yeah. And it's funny because like you probably the same way. Maybe not like this. We've always joked for years, right? You're gonna go into this hellhole, or we're gonna climb up on and hunt the backside of this mountain. You're like, hey man, it's only 6 point or better back here, or you know what I mean. And you're half joking, but only half joking. But in reality, why the hell you want to crack a huge bull out of that hole? Like it should be only spikes in this spot, man. You're only killing spikes and cows.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and I think, packing out an elk, like, my opinion, it's like joining the military, roofing a house. Everybody needs to experience that at least once. And one of the things that I've noticed is a lot of guys that haven't actually, they haven't, they profess a lot of experience on hunting other animals, but are giving advice on elk hunting, and it's just different. Well, what would you say compared to a guy hunting whitetail in, let's say, Alabama, that came out west one time, didn't harvest an elk, but giving advice? I think some of the advice he could give is good, maybe what he learned, and I totally get that. But till you fact one out 2 or 3 miles, man, that it sucks.
When you're guiding, you're going to do all the work, right? 99% of the time, you're going to do all the work. I haven't had the opportunity too often to stand next to somebody that had to do the work, because and when you walk up to an elk and it's just this massive amount of dead weight laying on the ground, and you tell me, have you ever killed a bull on the flat? Probably not, right?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, you got to tie
like to kill one at the trailhead. That'd be awesome.
You got to tie a leg or a horn to a tree to stop it from continually sliding down the hill. And now you're going to work on this, and one of those legs comes over and hits you in the head, it about freaking knock you out. I mean, it can be a freaking war. Well, that's back in the day when we gutted them, right? You don't gut them much anymore. So it has gotten a little easier boning them out, but man, it can be a hell of a job. Like I said, there's nothing. I don't think I've ever killed one laying flat on the ground. So,
no, yeah, and I mean, that's another thing. Not to want to go on all night with this. The deboning. Have you ever watched somebody debone one that's never done it before? It's like an invasive brain surgery. They're like afraid to screw everything up. It's awesome.
No, I tried to convince my buddy one time. I had a friend that had never boned out, and we were way back in. And he's like, no. And I said, yeah. Get out of the way. But nah, it's the way to go. If you have ever cut meat, right, in your garage, on the table, in the kitchen, if you have ever cut up a deer, you can debone an elk. I mean, you still just follow the muscle seams. It's the way I do it.
Yep. Yeah, that's the way I explain it as well. It's like if you cut the rear quarter or the rear, if you just pull off the rear and you look at the tendon lines and the muscle splices, you literally can just kind of work your way at it and almost pull them apart in spots. Not the whole thing, but you pick it up pretty quick. It's not as daunting as you think once you've done it a couple of times. And I can knock out an elk, and if I'm in a good spot, I can knock out an elk solo in an hour and a half at the most, but usually about an hour in a good spot. In a bad spot, you're doubling that time, maybe more. I mean, I've deboned some elk on some horrible side hills, and I know, going through the gas chamber might have been easier. Like literally you start 15 feet higher than you end up, or lower. You end up 15 feet lower than you started. But I've gotten some pretty good tricks of the trade, and I've got it down to a science pretty well now, where if I've got a sharp knife and a decent spot, I can usually do it in an hour, maybe a little bit more.
I haven't, I've been pretty fortunate. I've been in some mostly just side hills, right? I mean, it's just, you just deal with it. And I will say that take your time, like anybody's never done it before. Take your time. First thing you do is go around the whole area, remove all the sticks, all the rocks, all the stumbling stuff. You don't want to fall, but I have been pretty fortunate in this case but I have heard some absolute horror stories. You get a 600-700 pound animal at a dead run and stuffs himself into a stump hole, dies piled up in a stump hole. Or I had another buddy a bull died and slid down the hill and wedged under a log, under a tree. Like, oh, frick. You got to get creative at that point.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It is amazing what positions you can get yourself in with elk, because it's not like a deer where you can just kind of maneuver it around. It's not as bad as a moose, but you're not going to be shifting that thing into too many different, hell, it's hard enough just to flip them over.
Yeah. I have an old picture. And again, I wish I had better cameras, wish I had taken better pictures, but I have a picture of me standing there with my hands in my pocket. And I remember the discussion with my buddy, and he's like, we can just flip this. And I got my hands in my pocket. I'm like, F you, bro. And he's got a hold of a leg. He's trying like hell. And I'm like, yeah, you ain't going to do it. What are we missing?
Yeah, for sure.
What are we missing, man?
Man, I'm sure we're missing, probably quite a bit, but man, I'm trying to think about coming up at a loss here, and I'm never a loss for words, but I don't know. I think we handled quite a bit.
It's just a good BS session. If anybody has any questions about what we missed, you just call Aaron. Just call Aaron 3 a.m., 4 a.m.
I'm going to
give him a call.
I would say I'm going to forward it to Jake Downs and make sure you earn your fall.
I do have a quick question for you. Coffee's been a crisis for me in the backcountry, just out of principle, the whole Starbucks thing. I can't find another, like that coffee tube. What is it, like freeze dried or something? What are you doing for coffee?
So I have the I use the Black Rifle single packets. They call it black powder. That's what I use. It's just like it's like a Via packet from Starbucks. Except I'm not supporting communism.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I guess I've gone on their website and I couldn't find them, or they were sold out or something. Maybe I should check again. I was frustrated. It's like Starbucks can't have a lock on that coffee. I'm sure.
Nope. Black Rifle, it's good. In fact, that's what I cooked this morning. So.
Right on, dude. Yeah, good time. Good luck.
Oh yeah, well, I'm sure we'll talk again many, many times. But yeah, the season's getting close again. My main focus, I have got to shoot an antelope this year because, I haven't shot one yet with a stick bow, so that's my primary in the beginning, obviously. Then shifting over to elk, so yeah, it'll be cool.
Well, the mule deer will appreciate it, I'm sure.
Well, Frank's going to be back there and telling Jesus on him, so yeah.
Right on, man. Cool.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Good luck.